Manager humiliated the waitress every day, until he choked and she was the only one around. Walter Thompson ran Harborview, the most elegant restaurant in the Tribeca neighborhood of New York City, with an iron fist for over 15 years. Emily Parker, 32 years old, had been serving tables at the same establishment for 3 years, enduring daily humiliations that the 70-year-old manager made a point of inflicting in front of all the customers. On that rainy Tuesday in May, the restaurant was hosting a group of important businessmen for a dinner meeting. Walter walked through the main room, checking every detail, adjusting silverware, and scolding staff for trivial reasons. Emily was carrying a tray of plates when he approached her again. "Emily, you're spilling sauce on the floor," Walter said loudly enough for the nearby table to hear. "How many times do I have to teach you the same thing? A child could do a better job." Emily felt her face burn with shame. She looked at the tray and saw no spilled sauce. The customers at the nearby table averted their eyes, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. She took a deep breath and kept serving without responding, as she always did. "And that posture?" Walter continued. "You look like a sack of potatoes walking around the room. Customers pay good money for an elegant experience, not to see someone who looks like they just came from the farmer's market." The words cut deep into Emily's heart. She worked twice as hard to keep that job, always arrived on time, never missed a day, and served customers with genuine kindness. But to Walter, nothing she did was ever good enough. One of the businessmen, a middle-aged man named Michael, watched the scene with discomfort. When Emily approached his table to serve the wine, he looked at her kindly. "Thank you, miss. The service has been excellent," Michael said, loud enough for Walter to hear. Emily smiled timidly and thanked him. And it was rare to receive compliments in front of the manager, but when it happened, Walter always found a way to downplay it. "You're very kind, sir," Walter interjected, approaching the table. "Unfortunately, we're still working on some training aspects with our newer staff." Emily hadn't been new to the team for a long time, but Walter always treated her like an inexperienced intern. She finished serving the wine and headed to the kitchen, swallowing yet another humiliation. In the kitchen, the chef Martha, a 60-year-old woman who had worked there for a decade, noticed Emily's dejected state. "That man has no heart," Martha murmured while seasoning a steak. "One day life will teach him a lesson." Emily just shook her head. She needed that job. She lived alone in a small apartment in Williamsburg and supported her sick mother who lived in upstate New York. She couldn't afford to answer Walter's taunts or look for another job. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The night went on, and the restaurant was at its busiest. Emily moved between tables with natural grace, a quality she had developed over years of working in customer service. Before Harborview, she had worked at smaller restaurants, always standing out for her dedication and warmth. Walter watched every move of the staff from his table at the back of the room, where he usually sat during important dinners. He chewed his medium-rare steak, cut into pieces too large for his age, but his pride wouldn't let him admit any weakness. Suddenly, a strange noise caught the attention of some customers. Walter was trying to swallow a piece of meat that had gotten stuck in his throat. His eyes widened, and he began to thrash in his chair, clutching his neck. The businessmen at the main table noticed first. Michael stood up in alarm. "He's choking. Does anyone know the Heimlich maneuver?" Panic swept through the dining room. Customers rose from their tables, some shouting for help, others grabbing their phones to call an ambulance. Walter was turning red, then purple, his movements growing more desperate. Emily heard the commotion from across the room. When she saw Walter struggling, a mix of emotions hit her like a punch to the gut. For a few endless seconds, she stood frozen, remembering all the humiliations, all the cruel words, all the times he had made her feel small and insignificant. But then her eyes met his. There was pure desperation there, fear of dying, the vulnerability of someone who desperately needed help. In that moment, Emily didn't see the cruel manager who tormented her daily. She saw only a human being in danger. Without further hesitation, she ran to him. Her mind automatically flashed back to her days as a senior caregiver before moving to New York City. She had learned the Heimlich maneuver while caring for old William, an 80-year-old man who lived alone and often choked during meals. Emily positioned herself behind Walter, wrapped her arms around his waist, and clasped her hands just below his ribs. With firm, precise movements, she applied upward pressure, just as she had learned years ago. On the first try, nothing happened. Walter remained desperate, his face growing darker. Emily took a deep breath and repeated the motion, this time with more force. On the third try, the piece of meat flew from Walter's mouth, landing on the floor a few feet away. Walter collapsed into his chair, breathing heavily but visibly relieved. His eyes welled with tears, a mix of relief and something Emily had never seen on his face before, genuine gratitude. The entire dining room erupted in applause. Michael was the first to approach. "Miss, you just saved his life. How did you know how to do that?" Emily was still shaking from the adrenaline. She looked at Walter, who was staring at her with an expression completely unlike anything she had ever seen. "I worked as a senior caregiver before coming here," she said, almost whispering. "I learned out of necessity." Walter tried to speak, but his voice came out hoarse and weak. He nodded, a simple gesture that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 words. Emily helped him sip some water, her movements careful and professional. "Thank you," Walter finally managed, his voice barely audible. It was the first time in 3 years he had thanked Emily. The words washed over her like rain on dry earth, bringing an unexpected emotion she struggled to contain. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The businessmen cancelled the rest of the dinner, concerned for Walter. Michael made sure to speak with Emily before leaving. "You were heroic today. That man is very lucky to have you around," he said, shaking her hand. "And from what I've observed tonight, he doesn't deserve an employee as dedicated as you." Michael's words echoed in Emily's mind for the rest of the night. She finished her shift in silence, organizing tables and cleaning the dining room as she always did. Walter had gone home early, still shaken by the scare. When she arrived at her small apartment in Williamsburg, Emily sat on the edge of her bed and finally let the day's emotions wash over her. She had saved the life of the man who treated her like garbage every day. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. She picked up the phone and called her mother, Mrs. Evelyn, who lived in a small town in upstate New York. As always, her mother answered on the first ring. "Hi, Mum. How are you feeling today?" "Better, sweetheart. And you? Your voice sounds off." Emily told her what had happened at the restaurant. Mrs. Evelyn listened quietly, offering only a few concerned remarks. "My dear, you did the right thing. You did the right. No matter how that man treats you, a life is a life. You have too kind a heart for this world. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, Mum. He humiliates me every day. The customers notice. I'm so embarrassed." "Emily, listen carefully to what I'm about to say. People who hurt others are often the ones suffering the most inside. Maybe today you planted a different seed in his heart." Emily slept poorly that night, tossing and turning as she replayed every moment of what had happened. When the alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning, she felt like she hadn't slept at all. She arrived at the restaurant an hour before her shift started, as she always did. She liked helping with the morning preparations, setting up the tables and making sure everything was in order. It was her way of ensuring nothing went wrong during her shift. Walter was already there, sitting at his usual table in the back of the dining room. But there was something different about his posture. He seemed smaller, more fragile than she remembered. When he saw her come in, he slowly stood up. "Emily, can I talk to you?" His voice was different too, softer without the usual harsh authority. Emily's heart raced. Was he going to fire her? Maybe he thought she'd taken advantage of the situation somehow. "Of course, Mr. Thompson." "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Emily perched on the edge of the seat, her hands folded in her lap. Walter studied her for a few seconds before speaking. "Yesterday you saved my life. I just did what anyone would have done, Mr. Thompson." "No," he shook his head slowly. "Not anyone would have. You had every reason in the world to leave me there. I haven't been fair to you." Emily blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected this conversation. "Mr. Thompson, let me finish, please," he raised his hand. "You said you worked in senior care before. Why did you come here, to a restaurant?" Emily hesitated. She'd never shared her full story with anyone at work. My mother got sick. She needed someone to help with her medications and doctor's appointments. Working in senior care during the day kept me from being there for her, so I looked for something that would let me work nights and be available for her during the day. Walter took this in silently. Emily continued, feeling a strange need to explain herself. The job here at Harbour View pays better than other restaurants. Even with the difficulties, I need this job. What kind of illness does your mother have? The question was asked with a gentleness Emily didn't recognize in Walter's voice. Severe diabetes and heart problems. She needs constant care and the medications are expensive. Walter was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. 20 years ago, I took care of my father until his last days. Diabetes too. I know what it's like to carry that weight alone. Emily looked at him in surprise. For the first time, she saw Walter as a real person, with his own history and pain, not just the cruel manager who made her days difficult. I want to ask you something, Walter continued, and then I want to make you an offer. Go ahead. First, the request. Forgive me for how I've treated you, for the humiliations, for being a terrible boss. There's no excuse for my behavior. Emily felt tears welling in her eyes. These weren't words she expected to hear. Now for the offer. I want to raise your salary by 40%, and I want to give you flexible time off so you can take better care of your mother. Mr. Thompson, I can't accept this just because it's not out of pity, he interrupted. It's because yesterday I discovered I have an exceptional employee and spent 3 years treating her like garbage. It's because you have healthcare knowledge that could be useful here. And it's because you deserve to be treated with the respect you've always earned. Emily couldn't hold back her tears. 3 years of humiliation and suffering seemed to dissolve with those words. I accept the apology, she finally said. About the raise. Can I think about it? Walter smiled, an expression she'd never seen on his face before. Of course. But I hope you accept. You deserve far more than I can offer. The following days felt surreal for Emily. Walter not only stopped humiliating her, but began treating her with genuine respect. He asked about her mother, praised her work in front of customers, and even sought her opinion on restaurant matters. The other employees noticed the change immediately. Martha, the chef, remarked to Emily as they prepared dinner, "What did you do to that man? He's unrecognizable." Emily told Martha the story, who listened while shaking her head. "Sweetheart, sometimes it takes nearly losing everything to remember what truly matters. Seems like you woke up his humanity." A week after the incident, Emily finally accepted the raise. The extra money would make a huge difference in her mother's life. She could now afford the more expensive medications the doctor had recommended, but not everything was perfect. Emily began noticing whispered comments among some staff. Some thought she was getting unfair special treatment. Others questioned whether she'd taken advantage of the choking situation. "She's always been his favorite," muttered Jason, one of the senior waiters. "Now that she saved his life, she's the princess of the restaurant." The words reached Emily and cut deep. She hadn't asked for special treatment. She'd only done what she thought was right. She started wondering if she should have accepted the raise. Walter noticed something was bothering Emily. One quiet afternoon, when the restaurant was empty between lunch and dinner, he called her over to talk again. "You seem troubled. Is something wrong?" Emily hesitated but chose to be honest. "Some of the staff think I'm getting unfair special treatment. They say I took advantage of the situation." Walter let out a deep sigh. "Emily, can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone here?" She nodded. "My wife passed away 5 years ago. Since then, I became a bitter man. I was hurting and ended up taking it out on the staff, especially you." "Why, especially me?" "Because you reminded me of her. The dedication, the kindness, the way you care for people. It was too painful to look at you and remember what I'd lost, so I decided to treat you badly to avoid facing those memories." Emily's heart ached. Walter's story explained so much about his behavior. "I know it's hard for others to understand the change," he continued, "but you did nothing wrong. You saved me in 2 ways, physically yesterday and emotionally today. You reminded me there's still kindness in the world. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the weeks that followed, Emily began discovering a side of Walter she never knew existed. He told stories about his late wife, Jennifer, and how they had built Harbor View together in the 1990s. Jennifer was a chef before we got married. He shared one afternoon while organizing the stock. She created half the recipes we still use today. This main room was decorated according to her taste. Emily looked around with fresh eyes, the soft colors on the walls, the paintings of upstate New York landscapes, the plants in the corners. It all made sense now. Why did you keep the restaurant after she... Because it was all I had left of her. But over time, instead of bringing me joy, it only brought pain. I forgot about the love she poured into this place. One evening, as Emily set the tables for dinner, a well-dressed middle-aged man walked into the restaurant. It was Michael, the businessman who had witnessed the choking incident. "Good evening," he greeted Emily with a warm smile. "Remember me?" "Of course, Mr. Michael. How can I help you?" "Actually, I came here because of you. I was impressed by your actions that night and I'd like to make you an offer." Emily felt a flutter in her stomach. Was he about to offer her another job? "I'm starting a new venture in senior care. I need someone with experience and the heart you've shown. I'd like to invite you to be our care manager." The offer was tempting. Better pay, a leadership role, a field she had real experience in. But Emily thought of Walter, the transformation she'd witnessed, and how Harbor View was finally becoming a welcoming place. "That's a very generous offer, Mr. Michael. May I think about it?" "Of course. Here's my card, but don't take too long. Take two. Opportunities like this don't come often." When Michael left, Emily held the card in her hands, torn between two very different futures. Walter had watched the scene from his table at the back of the room. As Emily passed by, he caught her attention. "Was it about a job?" Emily hesitated, but decided to be honest again. "He offered me a position in senior care, as a care manager." Walter took in the news silently. She expected him to be upset or try to convince her to stay, but his reaction surprised her. "Is it a good opportunity?" "Yes. Better pay, a role in my field." "Then you should take it." Emily looked at him in surprise. "You don't want me to stay?" "Emily, I want what's best for you. After everything I've done, it'd be selfish of me to hold you back if there's something better out there." His answer moved her deeply. For the first time, she felt he truly cared about her well-being, not just what she could do for the restaurant. That night, Emily called her mother for advice. "Mom, I'm confused. This new opportunity might be exactly what I've always wanted, but at the same time, I feel like I'd be abandoning Mr. Walter just as he's changing." "Sweetheart, you're not responsible for anyone else's transformation. Everyone owns their own growth. If he's changing, it's because he chose to, not because you forced him. But what if he goes back to how he was if I leave? Then the change wasn't real. True change doesn't depend on someone else's presence to last." Her mother's words made sense, but Emily still felt conflicted. She decided to give herself a few more days before making a final decision. The following Friday, Harbor View hosted an 80th birthday party for an elderly gentleman. The family had rented the main dining room, and Emily was in charge of coordinating the service. During the celebration, the birthday guest of honor, Mr. George, began to feel unwell. He had diabetes and had eaten too many sweets during the celebration. Emily noticed the signs immediately: excessive sweating, trembling hands, mental confusion. "Mr. George, are you feeling all right?" she asked discreetly as she approached. "I'm feeling a bit woozy, miss." Emily recognized the symptoms of low blood sugar. Quickly, she asked the kitchen for a glass of orange juice with sugar and helped the elderly man take small sips. "Let's sit here and breathe slowly," she said, guiding him to a more secluded chair. Within 15 minutes, Mr. George was feeling much better. His daughter, who had noticed the commotion, came over worried. "What happened, Dad?" "This young lady here saved me," Mr. George said, pointing to Emily. She knew exactly what to do when I wasn't feeling right. Mr. George's daughter, a woman around 50 named Deborah, was impressed. "Are you a nurse?" "No, but I worked caring for seniors before coming here. I learned to recognize these signs." "Oh my, what luck to find someone like you." "My father keeps having these episodes and we never quite know what to do." Walter had observed the whole situation from a distance. When the party ended and the guests left, he called Emily aside to talk. "You did exceptional work today." "Thank you. I just recognized the symptoms and acted fast." "Emily, can I ask you a personal question? Why did you come to work at a restaurant when you have so much knowledge in healthcare? It doesn't make sense." Emily sighed. It was a question she often asked herself. "Because senior care is a daytime job, and I needed to be available for my mother during the day. Plus, working as a private caregiver doesn't offer financial stability. Sometimes I go months without finding clients." "What if there was a way to combine both? Use your healthcare knowledge here at the restaurant?" Emily didn't follow. "How so?" "I've been thinking. Harborview serves many elderly clients, especially during lunch. What if we created something special? A dedicated service for seniors, with a professional trained in first aid and basic healthcare." The idea was interesting, but Emily couldn't see how it would work in practice. "You could take a refresher course in first aid, maybe some online classes on senior nutrition. We'd create a special program, adapted menus, personalized service, little health talks during lunch." Emily felt excitement growing inside her. It was a way to use her real skills without leaving the restaurant entirely. "And this would give me a different role here." "Exactly. You'd be our senior care coordinator, a salary matching the responsibility, flexible hours to care for your mother, and the satisfaction of doing what you do best." Walter's offer was even better than Michael's. Emily felt her true abilities were finally being valued. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But know this idea only makes sense with you. You have the knowledge, the experience, and most importantly, the heart for it." That night, Emily called Michael and thanked him for the opportunity, but said she decided to stay at Harborview. She briefly explained the new project, and Michael congratulated her choice. "Sounds like you found a way to do exactly what you love. That's rarer than you think." Emily also called her mother to share the news. "How wonderful, dear. Finally, you'll get to use everything you learned caring for seniors, and you can still take care of me." "Mom, Mr. Walter has completely changed. It's like he's a different person." "People can change, Emily. Sometimes they just need a strong enough reason." In the following months, Emily threw herself wholeheartedly into the new project. She took refresher courses in first aid, studied geriatric nutrition, created a special menu for diabetics and those with high blood pressure, and developed an emergency response protocol. The Harborview Senior Care Program was launched 3 months later with great success. The restaurant began welcoming organized groups of seniors, families looking for a safe place to bring their elderly relatives, and even staff from nursing homes who brought their residents for outings. Emily became a familiar face in the neighborhood. Mr. George became a regular customer and always brought friends to meet the woman who saves our lives. His daughter Deborah even recommended Emily to give talks at caregiver groups. Walter watched everything with genuine pride. Emily had transformed not just the restaurant, but the entire dynamic of the place. The staff seemed more motivated, customers constantly praised the service, and Harborview had found a unique identity in the market. One afternoon, as Emily organized materials for a first aid talk she was giving to a group of neighborhood ladies, Walter approached her. "Emily, can I confess something to you?" "Of course. When you saved me that night, I thought it was just about not leaving this world yet. But now I realize you saved me in a much deeper way." Emily stopped what she was doing and looked at him intently. "What do you mean?" "You reminded me of who I was before the pain. You reminded me of the man Jennifer fell in love with. You gave me back the purpose this place had when we built it together. Mr. Walter, the change came from you. I was just in the right place at the right time." "No, Emily. You chose to save me even after everything I did to you. That choice changed everything." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. 6 months after the choking incident, Harbor View was unrecognizable. Not just because of the renovated decor or expanded menu, but because of the completely different atmosphere. The staff smiled more, customers felt at home, and Emily had become a key part of the establishment's success. One Saturday morning, as Emily prepared materials for another talk, a young woman entered the restaurant looking for Walter. Emily directed her to his table but couldn't help noticing the woman seemed nervous and emotional. "Dad," the young woman said as she approached Walter. Emily nearly dropped the papers in her hands. Walter looked at the woman with total shock. "Samantha, what are you doing here?" "Can I sit?" Walter nodded, still clearly surprised. Emily tried not to listen, but it was impossible to miss the tension between them. "Dad, I saw the articles about the senior program here at the restaurant. I saw the photos of you with the woman who runs it. You looked happy. It's been years since I've seen you genuinely smile. Samantha, Let me speak, please. I know we both made mistakes. After Mom passed, we fought so much, said awful things. You did too. But it's been 5 years, Dad. 5 years without talking." Emily felt tears in her eyes. She hadn't known Walter had a daughter he hadn't spoken to in so long. "I was angry," Samantha continued. "Angry at life, at fate, and I took it out on you. I know you were hurting too, but back then I could only see my own pain. Sweetheart, when I saw the reports about the restaurant, I realized you found a way to move forward. And I want to move forward too. I want my dad back." Walter stood up from the chair and hugged his daughter, both of them crying. Emily stepped back discreetly, giving them privacy for their moment. Later, Walter called Emily over to formally introduce her to Samantha. "Emily, this is my daughter, Samantha. Samantha, this is Emily, the woman who changed everything here at Harbor View." "Nice to meet you," said Samantha, shaking Emily's hand. "My dad told me how you saved him. And I'm not just talking about the choking incident." Emily felt awkward at the compliment. "Your father is a very special person. He just needed to remember that." "Actually," Walter said, "Samantha has an interesting proposal for us." "How so?" "I have a degree in business administration and work in digital marketing," Samantha explained. "I'd like to help expand the senior care program, create a website, promote it on social media, maybe even franchise the idea to other restaurants." Emily grew excited at the possibility. The project had grown a lot, but it was still limited to Harbor View. "It would be amazing to bring this idea to more places," Emily said. "So many people could benefit." "Then it's settled," Walter said. "We'll be a team, me with the restaurant experience, Emily with healthcare knowledge, and Samantha with business skills." In the following months, the partnership between the three flourished. Samantha created a professional website for Harbor View, built a strong social media presence, and began receiving inquiries from other restaurants interested in the program. Emily found herself giving interviews to specialty magazines, attending conferences on aging, and even being invited as a consultant for other establishments. "Who would have thought that terrible night would be the start of all this?" Emily remarked to Walter one quiet afternoon. "Sometimes the worst experiences lead us to the best places," he replied. "If I hadn't choked, I never would have discovered who you really are, and you never would have discovered what you're capable of." One afternoon, Emily received a phone call that would change everything again. It was from the hospital in the city where her mother lived. Mrs. Evelyn had fallen ill and needed emergency heart surgery. Emily panicked. The surgery was expensive and complex. Even with her raise and the program's success, she didn't have the means to cover all the costs. "I need to go there right away," she told Walter, clearly desperate. "Go, don't worry about anything here. And Emily, do you have the means for the surgery?" Emily shook her head, tears streaming freely. "I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a very expensive surgery." "Don't worry about that now. Go take care of your mother. We'll figure out the rest." Emily left for upstate New York on the first available bus. She arrived at the hospital in the middle of the night and found her mother conscious but very weak. "My daughter, I'm so glad you came." "Mom, you're going to be okay. The doctors will do everything they can. Emily, listen, if anything happens to me, don't talk like that, Mom. Listen to me. You've built a beautiful life in New York City. You've found your place in the world. No matter what happens to me, you have to keep going. Promise? Emily promised. But she couldn't imagine life without her mother. The next day, the doctor explained the details of the surgery. It was complex and expensive, but necessary. Emily was trying to figure out how to get the money when she received an unexpected call. Emily? It's Samantha. How's your mother? She needs surgery. It's serious, but there's a chance it'll work. And financially? Are you able to cover the costs? Emily hesitated, but decided to be honest. No, it's too expensive. I'm trying to see if I can get a loan. Emily, listen carefully. My dad told me about your situation. We want to help. Samantha, I can't accept. It's not charity. It's an investment. The senior care program is doing so well that some investors want to join. My father suggested you become an official partner in the project. With your share percentage, you'd have the resources to cover your mother's surgery. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. You do that for me? Emily, without you, there is no program. You're the heart of it all. It makes perfect sense for you to be an official partner. But I don't have money to invest. Your knowledge, your experience, your dedication, that's worth more than money. We want you as a partner on your own merit. Emily hung up the phone with tears in her eyes. Once again, the people she least expected were changing her life. Mrs. Evelyn's surgery was a success. The recovery would be long, but the doctors were optimistic. Emily spent 2 weeks caring for her mother in the hospital, while Walter and Samantha kept the program running smoothly in New York City. When Emily returned to Harbor View, she found a surprise party waiting for her. All the staff were there, along with several regular clients of the senior care program. Mr. George had organized everything with Walter's help. Welcome back, our coordinator, said Walter, handing her a document. Here are the partnership papers. You're now officially a partner in the senior care program. Emily looked at the document with emotion. Her name was there, listed as a partner with 20% ownership in the project. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, said Samantha. You deserve this and so much more. Mr. George stepped forward with a commemorative plaque. Miss Emily, all of us from the senior group made this little plaque for you. It says, "To Emily Parker, who taught us that caring for one another is what makes us human." Emily cried with emotion. She looked around and saw smiling faces, people she had helped, staff who now respected her, and Walter, the man who had gone from being her biggest problem to her greatest supporter. In the following months, the senior care program expanded to 3 restaurants in New York City. Emily traveled between them, training teams and implementing the protocols she had developed. Her mother recovered completely and even visited New York City to see Harbor View. My daughter, I'm so proud, said Mrs. Evelyn when she saw Emily coordinating a lecture for a group of 50 seniors. You found your true calling. One evening, after an especially successful event, Emily and Walter were cleaning up the hall when he asked an unexpected question. Emily, do you ever regret saving me that night? What do you mean? If you hadn't saved me, maybe you would have taken Michael's job offer. Maybe you'd be in a better situation today. Emily stopped what she was doing and looked at him seriously. Mr. Walter, that night didn't just change your life. It changed mine too. It made me realize I could use my experience in a way I'd never imagined. It gave me a professional family I never had. It taught me that sometimes it's worth taking a risk to do the right thing, even when the person doesn't deserve it. And now? Do you think I deserve it? Emily smiled. Now I think we both deserve this life we've built together. You deserve to have found a new purpose. I deserve to have my work valued. And all the seniors we serve deserve a place where they feel cared for and respected. Walter smiled back. You know what Jennifer would say if she were here today? What? That Harbor View has finally become what she dreamed of when we started, a place where people feel at home, where they're cared for, where they matter. 2 years after the choking incident, Emily was giving a lecture on first aid to a group of 200 caregivers at the largest convention center in New York City. The senior care program had become a national franchise with 15 locations. In the audience, she saw Walter and Samantha, who were now her official partners in the company they had built together. She also spotted her mother, Mrs. Evelyn, fully recovered and volunteering in one of the new programs. During the lecture, Emily shared the story of how it all began, without mentioning names or personal details, but explaining how a moment of crisis had turned into an opportunity for growth for everyone involved. "What I learned is that sometimes we save people in ways we never imagined," she told the audience. "And sometimes by saving others, we end up saving ourselves too." After the lecture, a young woman approached Emily. "My grandmother has been going to Harbour View for a year now. She always speaks so fondly of you, says you made her feel important again." "What's your grandmother's name?" "Martha Johnson. She worked as a chef her whole life, but now she lives in a retirement home." Emily smiled. Mrs. Martha was one of the program's most beloved clients. "Your grandmother is a very special person, and she helped a lot in developing our special diabetic recipes. She's so happy when she talks about it. She says someone finally values her experience, even now at 85. Conversations like this reminded Emily daily why her work mattered. Every senior they cared for had a story, an experience, a wisdom that deserved to be valued. When she got home that night, Emily reflected on the incredible journey she had lived. From a waitress humiliated daily to a partner in a successful national company, it had all started with one simple choice: saving the life of someone who had mistreated her. She picked up the phone and called Walter. "Hi, Mr. Walter. How was your day?" "Great. And yours? Did the lecture go well?" "It was wonderful. You know, I was thinking, you're right when you say Jennifer would be proud of what Harbour View has become." "Why?" "Because we created exactly what she dreamed of, a place where people matter, where they're cared for, where they feel valued no matter their age." "Emily, can I confess something? Sometimes I look at all this and can't believe it came from that terrible night. Right? Who would have thought you choking would be the best thing that could have happened to both of us?" They both laughed at the irony of it. "Emily, thank you for everything. For saving me, for forgiving me, for agreeing to build all this with me. Thank you, Mr. Walter, for giving me the chance to be who I really am." 3 years later, Emily stood on stage at the country's largest geriatrics conference, being honored as Professional of the Year in Elderly Care. In the audience were her mother, Walter, Samantha, and hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by the Senior Care Program. During her acceptance speech, Emily looked at Walter and smiled. "I want to dedicate this award to everyone who believed it's never too late to start over, that real change is possible at any age, and that sometimes the biggest transformations begin with the smallest acts of kindness." When she stepped off the stage, Walter was waiting with a bouquet of flowers. "Jennifer would be so proud," he said, handing them to her. "Of both of us," Emily replied. "Of both of us," Walter agreed. In that moment, Emily looked around and saw everything they had built together. A thriving company, hundreds of seniors cared for with dignity, valued employees, families at peace, knowing their loved ones were in good hands. It all began on a terrible night, with a choking man and a woman who chose to save him despite everything. But it turned into a story of redemption, forgiveness, growth, and above all, how small acts of kindness can change the world around us. Emily looked at her award plaque and read it again. For exceptional dedication to senior care and for transforming the concept of dignified aging in the United States. She smiled, thinking about the irony of it all. The humiliated waitress had become a national figure. The cruel manager had turned into an advocate for seniors' rights. And together, they had created something that was changing the lives of thousands of people. "You know what's most amazing?" Emily said to Walter as they walked toward the car. "What?" "If you had asked me 4 years ago if I saw myself here, I'd have said it was impossible. But now I feel like I'm exactly where I always belonged. And I feel like I've finally become the person Jennifer fell in love with so many years ago," Walter replied. "Someone who cares, who makes a difference." Then we both ended up where we needed to be. "We did," Walter agreed. "And we still have so much more to build." Emily looked to the future with hope. There were plans to expand the program internationally, create a school for specialized caregivers, and develop technologies to make senior care easier. The possibilities were endless. But most of all, she had learned that we never know how our toughest moments might turn into the greatest blessings of our lives, and that sometimes, to save someone, we first have to choose to believe it's worth trying. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this story of transformation and overcoming. Do you believe Emily made the right choice by saving Walter? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories.